In the blistering heat of ancient Greece, amid marble dust and the smell of olive oil stood Callion of Thebes, a sculptor so obsessed with beauty that he'd been banned from most dinner parties for making statues of everyone. Wives for study purposes. His workshop was cluttered with half-finished busts, headless gods, and one particularly muscular Apollo that people whispered was suspiciously accurate to his own proportions. But one night, after too much wine and self-inflicted philosophy, Callion decided to craft not just a statue, but perfection itself. Man has reached the peak of beauty, he muttered, chisel in hand. And yet, what of woman? What of the divine symmetry, the curve beyond comprehension? He worked feverishly, moonlight pouring through the window like liquid silver, shaping marble with hands that trembled as though possessed by the muses themselves. Days bled into nights. Brett turned to stone from neglect, and pigeons built nests in his hair. But at last he stood back, exhausted, and before him was her, a vision of ideal femininity. A woman so beautiful that Aphrodite herself would have gotten self-conscious and started a new diet. Callion named her Lyra. If only you could live, he said, wiping dust from her cheek as though caressing a lover. If only I could hear your voice, see you smile. Perhaps it was the exhaustion, or perhaps the gods were bored again, but he dropped to his knees and prayed, Aphrodite, grant her life. Let beauty breathe. Then, because wine made him dramatic, he added, if you must take something in return, take me. He fell asleep right there on the workshop floor, a heroic pose ruined only by the trail of drool running down his chin. When dawn came, so did the wish. The world seemed wrong, softer, warmer. His head was heavy with unfamiliar hair. His chest felt, well, different. Heavy in a way that would make balance a concern. Callion groaned, opening his eyes. His voice was melodic, high-pitched, like someone had replaced his vocal cords with a lyre string. By Zeus, he froze. His hands, delicate and smooth, no longer bore the scars of the chisel. He sat up, or rather, she sat up, and found herself surrounded by a white marble shell, cracked open like an egg. Her reflection shimmered in a pool of rainwater nearby, cascading hair, impossible curves, lips made for tragedy and bad decisions. Oh no, she whispered, the gods have a terrible sense of humor. She touched her face, then her chest, then promptly yelped. This isn't art. This is sorcery. Aphrodite's laughter echoed faintly, somewhere between mockery and applause. You asked for beauty to breathe, sculptor? You should have been more specific. I meant her. Callion protested to the heavens, her voice rising like an offended chorus girl. I didn't mean me. But no divine reply came. Only the chirping of birds and the realization that she was stark naked in her own workshop. A passing apprentice, Timon, knocked timidly at the door. Master Callion, are you in there? The city elders request your presence. Callion panicked, diving behind a statue and knocking over a bust of Zeus. Tell them I'm indisposed. Indisposed how? In divine mystery. She cried, clutching her new chest with one arm and her pride with the other. Very divine, much mystery. Timon laughed, muttering something about wine hangovers. Alone again, Callion studied her new body. The artistry was impeccable, every detail perfect, down to the faint blush on her cheeks. It was both a nightmare and her life's greatest work. I'm too good, she moaned. I sculpted myself out of manhood. The next few hours were chaos. She tried to chisel her old self back, but the tools felt strange in her small hands. Her new balance made her topple onto the unfinished Apollo statue, which, for once, didn't seem nearly as impressive. She tried wrapping herself in a toga, but it draped wrong, falling off her shoulder in ways that would have made philosophers write sonnets. When she finally stumbled into town, people stared. By the gods, one merchant gasped. She must be Aphrodite incarnate. Callion froze. The crowd began to bow. A child offered her figs, someone kissed her hand, and before she could protest, she was surrounded by adoration and unwanted attention. "Fair goddess," said a swaggering young noble, "grant me your favor." "Fair goddess," said another, "marry me." "Fair goddess," said a fishmonger, "can you bless my nets?" Kalyon's mind spun. "I'm not a goddess, but they didn't listen." One bold fellow reached for her hand, and she reflexively slapped him, forgetting her new strength. He flew 5 feet back into a fruit cart. "Oh dear," she muttered. "She's divine." The crowd gasped in awe. She smote him with beauty. Word spread fast. Within a day, Callion was being worshipped by half of Thebes as the living sculpture of Aphrodite. Priests showed up at her door, asking for divine counsel. Poets recited odes in her honor, some so bad she wished for divine smiting rights. She tried explaining the truth. "I was a sculptor, I made a statue, now I am the statue." But everyone nodded sagely and called it metaphorical brilliance. Meanwhile, the real Aphrodite was somewhere on Olympus, sipping ambrosia and giggling into her hand. Callion's new divine duties included blessing weddings, awkward, posing for artists, even more awkward, and enduring endless prayers for fertility. "Fertility?" she muttered one evening, sitting beside her reflecting pool. "I can barely figure out how to walk in sandals with these hips, and they want fertility blessings." But the cruelest twist came when she found her old reflection carved in marble, the male Callion, forever holding a chisel, forever confident, forever smug. She glared at it. "You did this?" she accused her own handiwork. "You just had to pray, didn't you? Couldn't just appreciate your own art like a normal narcissist?" She decided to confront Aphrodite directly. So she prayed again under the moon. "Oh, great goddess, you've had your fun. Turn me back before I cause another philosophical movement about beauty." The air shimmered. Aphrodite appeared, lounging on a cloud like a smug cat. "Turn you back?" "But you're perfect now, dear. Perfectly miserable." Callion snapped. "I can't sculpt. I can't even sneeze without a crowd declaring it divine." Aphrodite smiled. "And yet, you asked for beauty to live. You didn't say how. I'll choose my words better next time." "Ah, but next time," Aphrodite said, tapping her chin, "you might just pray to stay this way. After all, your new form seems to have admirers." She vanished, leaving a trail of glitter and smugness. The next morning, Callion found herself surrounded by gifts, flowers, wine, love letters written in terrible poetry. And against her better judgment, she began to enjoy it. A little, maybe she'd pose at sunset and people would sigh. She'd walk through the Agra and merchants would gift her olives just to see her smile. Beauty had become her prison, but also her power. Weeks passed. Eventually, she began sculpting again, delicate female figures that reflected her new understanding of grace, balance, and curves. "I finally get it," she admitted one evening, smoothing the marble's cheek. "Maybe I needed to see it from the other side." Then she tripped over her own toga again and swore loudly, because enlightenment doesn't prevent clumsiness. Years later, the legend spread across Greece. The story of the sculptor who loved beauty so much the gods made him become it. Scholars argued if it was true, poets romanticized it, and playwrights turned it into bawdy comedies. Meanwhile, Callion herself lived quietly near the sea. Her statues now worshipped across the land, though she kept a strict no prayers after sunset policy. Sometimes she still looked at her reflection and sighed. "I used to be a man of stone," she'd mutter, "and now I'm a woman of legend." Then she'd laugh, toss her hair, and chisel another masterpiece. Because if the gods wanted her to embody beauty, she might as well make it worthwhile. One evening, a young sculptor knocked on her door, eager to learn from the goddess of form. He was nervous, clumsy, full of ambition, just like she once was. "Teach me to make beauty come alive," he begged. Callion smirked, leaning on her chisel. "Careful what you pray for, boy." The gods love irony, and somewhere on Olympus, Aphrodite laughed so hard she spilled her wine again.